Hello, everybody. Just to give you a heads up again, for those of you who may have not seen yesterday's stream, my good camera shit the bed. And there's a bunch of crap going on with my computer motherboard as well. So the camera, I have this backup old Logitech, and it like is zooming in on my face. So the camera, I don't know how often it'll be on, but just wanted to say hello, everyone, and hope you're doing well. And hopefully by next weekend streams, I'll have a new one. I've been kind of hunting some down. So, by the way, if you're watching the replay of this, please refer to the timestamps. Just gonna bullshit for a few minutes. If any of you have any suggestions, I'm looking for a 1080p webcam that does 60 frames per second. If you have any recommendations, feel free to leave them in the comment section or the live chat if you're here tonight. And I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit. I mean, Logitech's always treated me well, but if anyone has any suggestions, I know there's like a Razer and an Elgato and stuff like that. So those are the three that I've been looking at. Anyways, got a interesting... Actually, let me just say hello out there to Active Research, True Detective, Endred, Bizwoofer, Candidly, Jane Mines, hello again. Hope you're doing well. Mijong, Caracam, hey brother. Boopster, Jimmy, good to see you, brother. John Doe says, we better be able to escape this place. See, that key thing, John, please try to keep this in mind. That don't doubt yourself. Just don't. Like, you know, I've kind of put on the channel before, like, fake it till you make it. You know, just unrelenting. It's happening. You're liberating yourself, and that's the bottom line. That's your intention. And, you know, it's really important to also, you know, be able to kind of prove to yourself in some form that your intention is king. It really is. Like, if you ever get a chance to go out of your body and test it out, you'll see it work before your very eyes in whatever way you get out. So that's like a great way to test run it. And then we've also seen it in a number of experiencer cases where intention is used and results come forth. And so never doubt yourself, my friends, and hang in there. Everything will be fine. So what we're going to do is get into tonight's near-death experience. It's Richard Allyn. He was in a car crash, and it's a great testimonial that he left, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah. It's kind of funny because he talks about how we've all been here for many lifetimes. He says he's been here thousands. His words, not mine. And when speaking with the beings, you'll hear them say, you've known us many lifetimes. Now, what's interesting too is that Richard talks about how, you know, hey, you can have many lifetimes on all different, you know, he used the term planets, realms, whatever you want to call them. But what's great is that, by the way, Jeff Mara is the channel tonight that sourced this video. So I want to give Jeff a big shout out and go check out his channel, Jeff and Mara's channel. It's good. A lot of great experiencer cases for your own research. Anyways, Jeff asked him, if I recall, he asked him something like, did you recall any lifetimes outside of Earth? And he said no. So in one breath, he's saying, yeah, you've experienced many lifetimes in other, you know, realms in this universe, or planets, as he said. But in the same breath, he's like, you know, the only ones I recall are here on Earth. Isn't that a bit of a problem? I think that's a big problem. So, and just the fact that he said thousands. I mean, come on, thousands of lifetimes. Just, you know, it reminds me of is that the case, and I'll bring it up a lot with, in, I believe, Journey of Souls. In the latter half of the book, a person is working on empathy, or soul is working on empathy, and has spent 5,000 lifetimes on empathy. Are you fucking kidding me? You know, let's get real. So, I mean, really, when does it end? Where does it end? Why is sovereignty, liberation, non-interference not going along with the group so vilified? We see it here in spades, but then you see it just with this topic, just with anything that goes on in this realm. Everything is crapped on when it comes to you standing up for you, going your own path, and doing your own thing. That doesn't involve some level of control. I mean, where does it end? You'd think that if if people can look at this realm, look at what happens here. And then you see how in these experiencer cases across the board, over 20 different topics and subtopics that funnel into this and present a very, in my opinion, pretty damn clear picture of massive deception. We know for a fact that this realm is inverted in a major deception, and it's just leveled with lies and misdirection, and it's all like really about not like us unifying with one another, staying separate, divide and conquer type stuff. That's what the system loves. But it also is threatened by individuality. It's threatened by the person who wants to just do their own thing, like we were just talking about. And then you kind of see what's going on in these experiencer cases, and it's just this relentless nailing them up against a wall in pure manipulation, love bombs, and you know, meeting grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and the dead dog and the dead cat, or Jesus or Buddha or God or whoever. And it just goes on and on and on. And people are put in a scenario with this love bomb where they admit themselves, you know, it's like you can't think straight. It's so overwhelming. It's so much. And we don't have a right to question that. We don't have a right to question that. We don't have a right to say, hey, I'm just going to play it safe when I leave here. And that's it. Nothing wrong with that, right? If, you know, like we've talked about before, guys, if the light and all this stuff is everything it's cracked up to be, it can wait. It can wait. It doesn't need an immediate decision. And deathbed visions and visitations show that, you know, it's the same old thing. It's like, hey, pressure on the person who's about to go and make sure that they comply. Well, the days of complying are over. So I hope that this topic continues to spread. And in the end, like I like to say, you don't have to believe a word I say. I don't know how much is right and how much isn't, but I have a feeling we're on the right track for the concept overall, that this place is this massive deception and that the astral is linked to it. In my opinion, hands down, no doubt. Of course, some of the details may be off, but in the end, you don't have to believe anything. All you have to do is believe in yourself. Believe, self-empower yourself. Self-empower yourself. You know, and walk the path of non-interference, sovereignty, liberation. Creating your own realm that is impenetrable and incapable of having any and all outside forces interject or intervene or you know, tear it up, whatever, and mess with you. We deserve, quote unquote, time to get our bearings, and see just what the hell we've been up to for who knows how many lifetimes, who knows how many realms are linked to this place. It seems endless, guys. It really does. It seems like the astral is absolutely gargantuan in size. And if all of those realms are indeed linked to this realm and the whole matrix system, then it goes without saying that this could be a very, very rare occurrence for any being to get out and take care of themselves and do the right thing. Because if you're still caught in the matrix and all different other types of realms, and they're just kind of funneling us through all these different experiences and memory wiping us in the process, you kind of can see how you get to the point where it's very difficult to leave. And of course, we have our own attachments, our own issues involved with that, past life interference that kind of creeps in, and perceived karma that is applied and in a lifetime, even though karma is bullshit. The point is we agreed to something with our karmic past that we did believe in at some point, and that in turn has caused us this endless cycle of birth, death, life review, soul classes, life script picking and the council and the teachers and the ascended masters and all this crap, and then rebirth again and memory wipe. And it goes on and on and on. So it's time. It's time for us to stand up and say no more. And I know I kind of ranted a little bit, and I haven't had a time to really rant too much so in the last couple weeks. So just want to get that out there and welcome anyone who's new to the topic. The most important thing I can say to anyone who's new or otherwise on the fence about this, please do your own research. Please. All you have to do is just kind of look at the outline I put with all the experiencer stuff. Some of it's in the trailer tab, the trailer. The video is titled, "What is the point of all this? What is the point of life and Earth, the Earth experience, the school, the Earth school?" And, just to make sure it's said, I don't believe Earth is a school whatsoever. The only lesson that really we take from this is that we've got to get out of it through our own individual way. And that starts with awakening and realizing the facade, the illusion that is this whole experience, and how we have been just cutting ourselves short for who knows how long. We have to think bigger. We have to think better. We have to know deep within ourselves that we too, every single one of us here tonight, is a creator being with amazing abilities and powers. And those powers can be applied instantly in a situation that you may not want or intend to occur or be involved with, anything. And that shows our power. That shows that we have all the cards, and all they have are illusions, deception, manipulation, but they're damn good at what they do in this system. It is incredibly well done. And I don't like to give it credit, but, I tip my hat where it needs to go, because they really have thought of almost everything to keep humanity and good spirits, good essence beings from using their full potential. So that is my rant. So thank you for hearing me out. And let's get into tonight's NDE. Again, this is Richard Allyn. And again, he was in a car crash. Where the hell did I put the video? There it is. Okay. Let me just I had it queued up, but then I did some sound tests. Hold on 1 minute here. All right, here we go. And as always, this channel and information shared is for educational purposes only. All right.
My guest is Richard Allyn.
So I'd like to give a shout out again to Jeff Marr Podcast. Thank you, Jeff and Marr. I appreciate you, and I know many people listening do. Jeff has a great channel to conduct your own research on. So here we go with Jeff and Richard Allyn.
Near-death experience due to an automobile accident, and today we're going to learn about it. Richard, thank you so much for being my guest today, and welcome.
It's nice to be here, Jeff.
Well, if you don't mind, let's just start on the day it happened and go from there.
Okay, I'm sure. I remember it quite well. Anyway, I was back in senior in high school, actually, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and I was in a great mood. Just left school, driving back in my little sports car, MG. Those are popular back then. So I was driving back, and it's really funny because you always wonder sometimes how things unfold. But I remember about 1.5 miles before the accident scene, I got this really strange gut feeling, about something not so great was going to happen. And I thought, well, maybe I should pull over the side of the road. But anyways, like my hands were frozen on the wheel.
Did you hear that? See, I found this part really interesting. So he's talking about how he had a premonition, something bad was going to happen. And he thought, oh, maybe I should pull over. Maybe I should, people we talked about before, people get a premonition. They go the same way to work every single day. And then one day they just get this premonition and decide to go another way because they just feel something really bad's going to happen. And then they look back later and find out that, there's 10-car pileup and multiple fatalities, and they could have been there at that exact time because that's the route they take to work. So with Richard here, he's having a premonition, but he also says,
about something not so great was going to happen. And I thought, well, maybe I should pull over the side of the road. But anyways, like my hands were frozen on the wheel.
It was like my hands were frozen on the wheel. Isn't that an odd thing to say? That feels like life script stuff to me. There was, I hate to stop it so early, but I think it's important to really say this. There was that case again in Journey of Souls, the Michael Newton commentary book that I did. And you had, I think, that woman who planned a life, she was going to get into an accident because she wanted to experience a different way of going through life on Earth. And so she ends up setting up so that she has this horrible injury, I think in her early teen years or something like that. And it's old kind of horse and buggy carriage times, I think 1800s or something, 1700s. And then it gets to the point where she's in the carriage with she's living with wealthy parents. She gets to this point where basically she is being told and pushed out of the carriage so that this injury can occur so that the life script can play itself out. And she was even fighting it subconsciously, but it still happened. And basically she got pushed out of the carriage, had this injury. And yeah, thankfully she had an upbringing with wealthy parents, and they were able to take care of her. So the reason I'm saying this is because there have been other accounts of this. There's even other near-death experiences, like and other premonitions just in general that I've gone over, where, and not just on the channel, but in my private research, where these types of things can occur. It's like my hands were stuck to the wheel. Usually when people have these premonitions and listen, they can avert something. But when you hear something like, oh, my hands were stuck to the wheel, it screams life script and screams lack of control. Yeah, so, okay, sorry about the belch there. I didn't, I muted it, but I guess it got a little bit, okay. There we go. So here we go.
No, just keep driving. And so that was strange. I didn't think much of it, except it was really weird. It's like, well, something doesn't feel right, but I can't seem to let go of the wheel. So I kept driving. And sure enough, I got to this intersection that's on the main highway 101, which is along the Oregon coast. And this big old truck crossed the center line and smashed into my sports car. And in those days, we just had seat belts, didn't have a shoulder harness or airbags or any of that kind of stuff. But what happened was, as soon as the accident happened, it happened so quickly, it just had a flash of a second to barely register. And then the next thing I knew, of course, I felt this tremendous impact on my head and my upper body. And it was just like basically running into a brick wall, if I could use something to kind of describe it. Tremendous impact. And then I was just kind of in a daze, and then a stupor. And I remember putting my hand up to my forehead, and blood was flying everywhere, and my forehead was all squishy. And I realized at that moment, you know, I've had some interesting things in life before that, but you know, like have gotten really sick kind of thing. But I realized at that very moment that I was going to die. Not just, oh, I think I'm going to die. You know, it's like, no, you're going to die. You know, this is it. And so once I instantly, this all happens actually in such probably a small space of time. But so, you know, you're going to die. And instantly when I realized that I was going to die, I felt this like a hand on my shoulder. And I couldn't see anything at that time. You know, I was still slumped back and blood was squirting everywhere. And this hand on my shoulder, you could feel it, and you could feel the presence of this spirit, this being, this angel. I couldn't tell at that time. And he said, "Hey, Rich, we got you. It's not a big," these are the words. Of course, they probably say them to what you're thinking, you know, what your mind can absorb. But hey, Rich, it's nothing to worry about. We've got you. And you've died thousands of times before.
Now, see, take what he just said and think really seriously on it, guys. For those, again, who are new or on the fence. Think seriously. Like, we come here lifetime after lifetime with this memory wipe. Do you really, can you envision thousands of lifetimes? Maybe we've already experienced that. The point is, you know, if you can at least use your intention as a creator being to get yourself out, I'd try and work on that and make that like the most important thing.
These are the words. Of course, they probably say them to what you're thinking, you know, what your mind can absorb. But hey, Rich, it's nothing to worry about. We've got you. And you've died thousands of times before, was what what I was told. So no problem. And at that moment, there was a huge sense of realization instantly that that's right. And so then you just totally surrendered in the moment and just, you weren't worried.
Okay, so there's that word. It's probably my most hated word, surrender. Again, it's like, it's one of the most ugliest words out there, because it just, what it really means is giving up. It means just saying, okay, all right, take me now, and I'm just going to hope for the best. You can't think in terms of surrender and giving ourselves away to anything. That thing taps you on the shoulder, you know, I would use some choice words, but I won't. But you know, you tell it to go pound sand
instantly. That's right. And so then you just totally surrendered in the moment and just,
Ugh.
you weren't worried. You know, you knew that everything was the way it was supposed to be. And so I was still in and out of it. I remember the police officer came up and they kind of yanked me out of the car and laid me down. I was bleeding and all this kind of stuff. And I was basically in and out of consciousness. And they took me to the hospital. And I remember bits and pieces of that. And I got to the hospital and I just bled out. Is what happened.
Okay, I hate to interrupt it again, but I think it's important to see like when a lot of people say that they had multiple NDEs, it's usually something like this. There are circumstances where people do have multiple NDEs that are spread out through many years or months or what have you. But this is like, okay, so he just had the beginning, more like bordering on a out-of-body experience, but it's also, you know, NDEs are out-of-body experiences, but you know, and he himself said I was going in and out of consciousness. So then he gets to the hospital, bleeds out, and then it continues. So we can even say that this is NDE number 2 or part 2.
But they didn't have my blood type. They didn't have helicopters in those days to speak of, like the life flight and all that kind of stuff. So I just lay there in the hospital, and the doctors are, I can remember hearing the doctor say, "Well, he's not going to make it." No. Anyway, and so I just lost consciousness of the doctors talking, and I was in this beautiful space. And I was at that time that I was in that beautiful mind space that all of a sudden I wasn't there anymore, you know, in the body. I was in this brilliant, absolutely blinding, white, pure white. I mean, whiter than white, and blinding light. I didn't go through any tunnel. I didn't see any relatives. I didn't do this or that. And I was just in this tremendously blinding light, but it wasn't just light. It was, we describe it as love. It was the most unbelievable, overwhelming feeling of love that I've ever felt in my life. I mean,
Okay, so I'm going to rewind a little bit, but I think it's important to point out that, you know, you have him saying, "Oh, you know, I didn't go down the tunnel." You know, a lot of people talk about going in the tunnel, but you have to keep in mind that he had experienced something before with an entity, interacted with it, you know, on his own. Yeah, it might have tapped him on the shoulder, but who knows? He's going in and out of consciousness. There could be some sort of agreements or memory wipe going on. We don't know, but it's just something to keep in mind that, you know, a lot of times when it's kind of like them direct, there's always something else that's a little bit before it that we can't quite, I don't know, get like the full story on. Not always, but it's just got to be said, you know, and make of it what you will. But remember, you are the maker of your own liberation and sovereignty. Don't let anything come between that.
I mean, in any loving moments before that and after that, you know, delivering my child and this kind of stuff, every moment is beautiful, but does not even compare to the intensity and the complete volume, endless volume of love that was there. It was you know, it was who we are. It was our level of consciousness that was just pure love flowing. It was just flowing. And
okay, so again, here we go with the love, you know, everything's love, and you know, the whole thing is love. You know, it's just not true. It's just not true. Again, what happens here is completely opposed to what is being advertised and marketed at the light and in the astral.
And it was so intoxicating. You know, it was like, this is who we really are. This unbelievable love. I know, and I probably repeat myself a lot, and that's okay, but it It was tremendous. And so I was, so to speak, I thought the light was so bright it was going to burn my eyes out, because, you know, I felt very much me and could see parts of me. And and then I, realized it's not blinding my eyes, it's so bright, but it just flows through you. It's part of who you were, but yet I was separate, but I was part of it, but I was separate. And so I was just there for seemed like quite a while. And then all of a sudden I heard a couple of impressions, voices, just like we're talking here. And kind of out of the whiteness came 8 beings, angels, I assume. I didn't know at the time. They didn't identify themselves as such.
Here comes the welcome wagon.
And they were also brilliant white, just a little off shade different. And so they kind of came out of the white light and spoke to me like we're talking, but there was no lips moving. And they were a little bit blurry. It wasn't crystal clear as far as facial features. You could definitely see the head and the eyes and the body and the shoulders. But it wasn't super clear as far as trying to make out exact features. But one thing I do know is around their head and a little bit over the shoulders was a little, this is what it was a little tinge of gold, a little off color white. That was a white gold, just a little bit down around the head, a little across the shoulders. And so they spoke to me for who knows how long, but so they said, we want you to take a look at something. And so I, like watching you here, I watched my life, and like watching a movie.
Monkey Man, you're giving it away.
Every little bit.
I'm sorry to pause again. I just want to give a big thank you to Deluxe Lex for the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course, who knows, like I said, there's no time. So I watched my entire life from birth till my death. And it was interesting. It's kind of strange to watch your life. But it was like a movie. And so when I got done watching the life, childhood and everything up to that point, and then they asked me, they said, well, what do you think? I said, what do I think? It was good. It was interesting. And, I did some bad things and did some, a lot of good things. I like people. And I said, we don't care what your life was in that sense. We don't care. What matters is what you think. And so that was kind of reassuring in a way. It's like that, they don't judge you. They just want you to review your life, and it's up to you what you think. So
it's up to you what you think. But what happened? They facilitated this whole thing for us to conveniently fall into. And it's cushioned with this amazing love bomb that can never be compared to any love experienced on earth. It's almost like, he's being ganged up by 8 entities. 8 entities. It's not like they, got a Tommy gun or anything, but for Christ's sake, I mean, it's like an intimidation thing, just like the 200 or 300 foot Jesus. These Jesus, these ridiculous Jesuses. And then they'll always say, oh, it wasn't judgment, it wasn't this, but yeah, that's the whole point of the life review. I don't care how many NDEers say it's not about judgment and this and that. It is. It's 100% about judgment, shame, guilt tripping, attachments, love, peace, happiness, materialism, familiarity, soul groups. I mean, there's so many things involved with it. It's not even funny, but it's put in this neat little package. And then it's like, remember, I say this constantly. This is a matrix that you cannot please. You cannot please this place because it is designed in a way that you can be the most amazing, well-mannered, respectful, incredible being that's ever walked the face of this earth. And they will still find something wrong. We've seen children getting chastised, having an NDE at 7, 8, 9 years old and getting chastised for stealing their sister's toy or pushing this or causing a mess. So they even will guilt trip you when you're a child and with limited experience because they don't have much else in the arsenal. So they'll find something. Keep that in mind. They are severely judging children for the most stupid things you can imagine. All right. Sorry. A lot of ranting tonight.
So I was there for a little while, and then right after that, I had the thought. It started to hit me. I was like, my folks are going to be fretting about me, and so I started thinking, I wonder if I can see them. So I kept looking around and trying to find the earth. And I looked and I looked and I looked and I thought, and I looked and I looked and I couldn't find the earth. I couldn't find anything, just brilliant white light. And then finally, something started to come into view, and it was dark.
Just enough so you can make out some of it, but you can't see who it is. You can tell it's human-like, but we're gonna still keep you in suspense and hide from you and pretend that we control over you or we have control over you.
Like night so much, more like a marble that's, or more like something that's shrouded kind of in a fog, a dark kind of fog, part of it. And then that was the earth. And it was kind of dark and maybe, I don't know why, maybe that's because it's a different density here or something like that.
It reminds me of Harold. If you guys haven't seen the interview with Harold, with his pre-birth memories as part of the My Journey to Awakening, he said Earth looked like a big black blob of goo or something like that, or a negative goo. I don't remember what he said. It's funny as hell though.
But I focused in on the earth, and it was quite dark, and
I
just kept thinking to myself, they said that's the earth, but I didn't come to the planet then. I didn't try to find my folks or something. I just realized, that they would be missing me and fretting about me, kind of thing. And I felt sorry for that because they didn't realize I was in such a glorious place. The energy of that love is so powerful, and these loving beings who just love you, you're just part of them. And
so key moment here is, the system, the light, the parasites, the 8 angels, whatever you want to call them, set up a scenario just like we see over and over and over again. It's like, okay, this is the prep work. This is the massaging of the being who's going through the experience, and they're preparing to send his ass back. And what do? They tap him into a channel so he can see his wife and kid or whatever, whoever they set him up with. And what does that do? It distracts, applies intention towards that, putting that energy towards that. It's a reminder of what you're missing, what you still have to do, and then they use it to tug at your heartstrings.
And they're part of you. And so the separation doesn't exist at the same level that it exists here where I was. So then I asked him, I says, now, uh, I want to stay. I mean, because it was so beautiful. And I wasn't seeing buildings or anything like that. It was just the beauty of being in that white light was just, that was home. That was the deepest home I could ever feel like. It's like I'm where I mean, this is my home, you know?
This is my home. How many times do we hear NDEers say this? It's my home. They feel right at home. But meanwhile, they're getting bombarded with the love bomb that is throwing their ability to critically think completely out the door. Like completely, might as well, it doesn't exist if you're in this scenario. That's why we got to make sure we're not even leaving a smidget of a door open. They're all closed. None of these things are allowed to interact with you in any way, shape, or form. That is your intention, period, the end. And that's it.
And it was so wonderful. And so they said, no, you have a whole bunch of things to do yet, so you can't stay yet. But they said,
you have a bunch of things to do. You can't stay yet. You're this close, Richard. But just close, but not now. Get back to Earth. I mean, they're like mobsters. What the fuck?
You have a whole bunch of things to do yet, so you can't stay yet. But they said, don't worry.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
They said, don't worry. You'll be back, and we know right to what you would call the second when your time is up, when you're going to die. Because in that sense, there's no time. So you're already dead. It just doesn't matter.
Don't worry. This is what they're saying, guys. I know I'm pausing it a lot. I'm sorry, but this experience is just chock full with so many moments. They are basically saying, hey, Richard, don't worry. We know the exact second that you're going to, when you do really die back on Earth, we'll be there for you. We're going to be waiting for you. We're going to open the floodgates for you, and you're going to come right on in, and we're going to zap you again, memory wipe you, and you're going to go through all this bullshit all over again, and you won't even know. This is how insane the system is. But it's right in our faces, guys. It's right in our faces.
But you have a lot of things to do. And so he came back, and naturally, we got into the fishing business and charter business, and had a bunch of families to make sure everybody made a living and all this kind of stuff. So, life is busy. But that actually, Jeff, without any dramatic things, that was my near-death experience. And the next thing I knew is I woke up and puking in the hospital, with the head all bandaged up, and the accident had peeled my, gone up here and peeled part of my skull.
Oh, welcome home, Richard. I mean, come on, right? You want the first thing you come back to Earth, you're puking and you're. Poor Richard, man. My heart goes out to you, brother.
So, it was kind of a letdown for a minute coming back. I mean, I was relieved that my parents would understand that I was okay. I was back. But the doctors are so funny in the hospital, because you came from this tremendous high where you really, really felt to me like my home. It's just beautiful. And then,
did you hear that? I loved what he said there. You just came from this tremendous high. And that's what we talk about. This is when people go to the light, or when spirit essence beings go to the light, it is the equivalent of them being drugged. He said it himself. It was like a high. Like a high. We hear people say euphoria rush, all sorts of, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but it's the same old thing over and over and over again. And here we have Richard admitting, just like many others, that it's like a high. It's like a rush. You just came from this amazing place, and then you're squished back into this nightmare.
It's okay. I was back. But the doctors are so funny in the hospital, because you came from this tremendous high where you really felt to me like my home. It's just beautiful. And then of course you're back in the reality of a aching small little anchovy can, they're stuffed as you're back in this little body again of flesh and bones. And it was like, oh man. And the doctors, they're so encouraging. Before I woke up, I could hear them, and they were talking about, I don't know, he's gonna have way too much brain damage and this and that. It was such a downer, because I knew, hey, they sent me back, it was gonna be all right. So
they sent me back. It's gonna be all right. No. Welcome back to Earth. Welcome back. Hope you enjoy your stay. And we hope that you fall for us again. I mean, this is the type of thinking that they have. It's a conveyor belt. It's just this endless conveyor belt of bringing people in, spitting them out, putting them in between, spitting them back here. It just goes on and on.
That's actually my near-death experience. And been busy ever since.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, thank you.
I want to go back to the moment of right after your impact where you had this realization that, I guess I'm dead. Mm-hmm. It seems like it was more of a curiosity than fear or panicking. Is that true?
Well, it was up to that moment, because it all happened so fast. I had that impact that was tremendous. I mean, it was, I can't describe it, but you definitely can. I can remember the feel of it to this day, the intensity of that impact. And I squished it, there was no collapsible steering wheels or anything. So you squished it down and poked your head out through the window and sucked it back in, and your shoulders and everything. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is when I realized I didn't even realize that so much. I knew something terrible had happened. But when I did realize, the moment I put my hand up and realized how serious it was, that I was going to die. I mean, you knew. It wasn't like I think I'm going to die. It's you knew you were going to die. They didn't tell you. You just knew you were going to die.
Okay, so this is something I've talked about before, that many of us, if not all, and I think it's important to put your intention out there, that you want the early warning system for when you're going to die. You want this, because what does it do? It puts you in check that, hey, all right, it's go time, and lay it all out there. The same things we talk about all the time. I'm not going to go over them all, but the point is remember, if you get the early warning system ahead of time, it could be the day of, it could be months, it could be on the very, very far outside chance a year. But a lot of times it's more like 3 months, middle range would be 6, and then weeks and days leading up to it. Or like Richard experienced, he had this warning on the day of the accident. And he did die, but he came back. So in reality, it wasn't his final exit. Not his final exit. So remember, take advantage of the early warning system. If you do get it, listen, meditate on it, do whatever you got to do to tap into that further and get your affairs in line, do what you got to do. But most importantly, concentrate on your sovereignty and liberation. And there will be a video about this topic. I've covered it before, but it needs some more stressing because all these videos get lost in the shuffle. So yeah, we'll discuss it again.
And then I it wasn't so much a curiosity at the time. It was more of a slight moment of panic, not really deep panic, but it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And surprise would be the better word for it. I wasn't afraid of it, but it was just surprise. And that's when they grabbed me, and then everything was all right. It was like, hey, we got you, Rich, And so, you know, they know us well.
Was it a male voice or female voice that told you that?
Male voice.
Male voice. Interesting. Do you have any indication if that was like your guardian angel, since they knew you so well?
No indication, but the closeness, it's like you're not separated from this angel or entity. I mean, this being, you know, they're with you all the time. So I'm guessing it was probably my guardian angel. We also have guides, you know, and we have allies and spirits. Some of them spirits that to help us, some of them spirits that not so much helpful. You know, I believe, of course, in lifetimes. And, you know, all of us have been many things in many lifetimes. And by our standards, not always squishy and good.
Yeah, it's interesting you start to talk about that, because you, first of all, you mentioned, you know, you've done this 1,000 times.
Thousands.
But you...
Thousands. Sorry to interrupt the question, but, you know, he said it. Thousands of lifetimes. Here.
Thousands.
But you just said we have allies, and to me that implies that we must also have enemies. Can you expand on that?
Well,
now I'm sorry to pause it, but I think it has to be said that it is possible that Jeff is starting to see through some part of the bullshit, because he is saying, hey, if you've got the good, the bad's out there too. Not everything is love and light. It's just not. And so I think it's really awesome to hear him. Like, the way Jeff asks questions, he's really, really good at it inserting himself at the right time, versus me, where I kind of chime in a lot. But, you know, the experiencer tells the story. So let's just hear what he has to say.
Thousands.
But you just said we have allies, and to me that implies that we must also have enemies. Can you expand on that?
Well, my feeling on that, my glimpse is that I've always, since I was a young kid, actually, I always saw the oneness of things, you know, the trees and the this and the that. One day when I was about 8 years old or so, I realized that we're all kind of one, you know, everything's kind of one, you know, we're not really that separate, even though we're separate, but so everything is connected, you know. What I realized from also before a little bit, but from the near-death experience, is we really don't go anyplace. I mean, these universes are big and expansive, but yet they don't occupy any space nor time. Everything is a conscious creation from different levels of consciousness. There really is, we're always on the edge of something and nothing, because that's what creates. We have to have the something and the nothing all the time. And so all these creations that we are just really conscious creations from different levels of consciousness. And we have many different levels of consciousness as well. So the shift to a different level of consciousness was instantaneous, because this level of consciousness wasn't blocking it so much as the way it felt like. A much greater level of consciousness, just, I was there. So you really didn't have to go anyplace. You know, nothing of what we occupy. Now we shoot rockets up and they go someplace, but the consciousness just shifts is all.
Maybe.
So through our lifetimes, I firmly believe, and I always have this feeling, especially since the NDE, that they didn't tell me this, you know, but this is my own perception, and that got heightened a little bit. But yeah, we're not all squishy in many lifetimes. You know, sometimes we might be commanders of big armies and slaughter men, women, and children, you know. I mean, we fulfill our human roles, and we're here quite a bit. I mean, it's interesting to know that, you know, we come back and we come back and we come back again. But remember, there is no time.
No, there is no time, but there's time when we're here. We come back and come back and come back. We have to wake up every day and experience this mess. You know, I mean, the one thing that irks me the most is the sugarcoating, the refusal to look at both ends and say, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, and be open to any and all possibilities. And then once you've exhausted all those, hopefully you'll funnel into something, you know, hopefully. It's not the case all the time, but, you know, saying, oh, there's no time, and, you know, and just minimizing, you know, thousands of lifetimes here on Earth is just, it's too much for me. Too much.
Quite a bit. I mean, it's interesting to know that, you know, we come back and we come back and we come back again, but remember, there is no time. Something without rambling. If I ramble too much, let me know.
No, you're not rambling.
You know, something that also, you know, it doesn't matter if we have thousands of lifetimes and they're not always here. You know, there's other places in the universe that we have lifetimes. This isn't just the only place. And they're all different aspects. You know, the Earth, being human, this is a rough planet. It's a beautiful planet, but it's a rough planet. You know, this is kind of considered quite a tough place to be, but it's also quite a place to experience. So,
yeah, it's tough. And so, does anyone out there who thinks just at least somewhat rationally that thousands of lifetimes are necessary on Earth to achieve what? For what? We are these all-powerful, amazing creator beings, and even the New Age says it. Tons of spiritual texts hint at it, refer to it. But at the same time, we have to come here for lessons. What lessons? What lessons can be achieved in thousands of lifetimes if you're being memory wiped every single time you come back here? It's nonsensical. Makes no sense whatsoever. And we've all fallen for, you know, a cosmic scam, I guess you can say.
I still have to remind myself of this. And this is the fact that since that beautiful, wonderful love is the place that so feels like home to me, that when I get, you know, our humanness is very powerful. So when I start getting too dogged down by the humanness, it's important for me to try to remember that we're trying to bring love in here. You know, we are loved all the time, but we're trying to bring love into all situations and all emotions. And it's hard from a human perspective to do that, to love the chance of being a human. You know, it's different. It's harsh. It's exciting. It's, you know, you can't quite duplicate what we do here in our own sense. We're so.
Trust me, I don't want to duplicate it. Let others duplicate it. They're on their own.
So close to light and dark all the time as a species. And so it's kind of like being a pioneer, I guess. But to answer your question, as far as allies, yes, you know, there's different levels of spirit, and some of them are more dense. And, you know, when we get angry really hard, get angry or upset, you know, you can feel a completely separate creation almost. I mean, you know, you might feel bad for days, but, you know, we're all energy. So we create dark energy as well as lighter energy. And these dark entities, a lot of them are our own creation.
Okay. Now, when I heard him say this, he's right. A lot of them are part of our own creation, but there's tons that are not. And if you do have this link where we are all connected, and there does seem to be, now, okay, let me just say this. The whole we are one thing, I don't know what to think of it, okay? I'm not saying that it is true. I'm not saying that it isn't. But I do think that it does apply itself inside of this matrix experience and its attached subrealms that are linked to here. Okay. So I think there is something to that, that there's this false connection that we're all kind of hooked into, right? But who's to say that's the case outside of this matrix system? We just don't know. A lot of it is, again, based on assumptions, and so many people say it over and over and over again that it kind of eventually just becomes fact in people's minds. I like to kind of say, hey, I leave it open, but I get the feeling that, again, if we are all connected, at least within this matrix system, then other people's bullshit and parasitical type of selves can kind of cast itself onto me and other people. Okay. And good, it's not just bad stuff. It could be good or bad, but the point is we don't know. We don't know how this whole thing works. We know that thought forms are very real, and you can, get yourself completely whacked out of your skull if you let things like that get ahead of you. And then there are entities that actually continue to propel themselves onto you if you continue to allow it. I don't want to rant too long, but one of the most impactful things that Jerry Marzinski ever told me was a story about an inmate. Now I'm going to make it really short. Jerry worked in helping schizophrenics for, I think it was over 30 years. Okay. And for the bulk of his career, he was in a prison. So in the prison setting, he was able to work a little closer and intimately with prisoners who had schizophrenia. And he started to figure out a way to help them shut off the voices. Okay. Now, when he did this with one patient, the patient got rid of the voices after working with Jerry for, months, weeks, whatever the case was, and then went back to his cell and would check in with Jerry. Week 1, I think everything was okay. And then week 2, he came back and he said, hey, Doc or Jerry, I invited the voices back. It was so quiet, I couldn't take it anymore. So it showed that he is the one that allowed them to come back and interfere with his life. And then it just kept going on. That alone should say a lot. And that's just one example, one example out of so many where we see our intention is so powerful as creator beings, and that we are the ones who have the last say. But you've got to know that you have that ability first. If you don't know that you have that and are capable of applying it, then you're going to get run over. You're going to let things get too caught up in your head, subconscious. And then it's going to unravel in your life. So anyways, just thought I'd put that out there. It's incredible what we are capable of, but we just have to know that we have those abilities.
Energy. And these dark entities, a lot of them are our own creation, and they hang around and they can cause some problems. But there are lots of spirits around, and not all spirits, from previous lifetimes, spirits can have a grudge, sort of. They don't just instantaneously get over it all the time, different levels of consciousness. So we have angels also to help us and to protect us from some of these things.
You mentioned lifetimes on other planets. Do you have memories of being on other planets?
I'm happy you said that, but no, not really.
Great question, right? Jeff asked a great question there. Do you have any memories of life on a planet? No. So the thousands of lifetimes he's referring to are on Earth.
You mentioned lifetimes on other planets. Do you have memories of being on other planets?
I'm happy you said that, but no, not really. Apparently, as is the case a lot, I guess is the case pretty much period, unless you have connection to that psychic ability or memory of such a thing. You don't. I don't. I get a feeling. Let's put it this way: I get a feeling, always have since I was young, that I've been other places, but I can't remember in particular any one lifetime. It's just always seemed that there was a lot more than just this one lifetime, and I felt sometimes out of place, like I was from planet Xeon or something. But I'm human now. But I didn't remember any specifics, no. But rest assured, you have been.
How do you think you've changed?
Rest assured, you have been. Yeah, rest assured what? A memory wiped, lifetime after lifetime, and, continuing this existence inside this overall matrix system. And meanwhile, I can't get full access to my true essence, my 100% true essence, not 99.9%, 100%. And we don't even have anything close to 99% while in this meat suit. We're more like at what? A couple percent, maybe? And that's probably being generous, I mean, it's, we all deserve so much more. That's all I got to say on that. We just deserve so much better.
Remember any specifics? No. But rest assured, you have been.
How do you think you've changed over the years due to your NDE?
Well, the funny thing about it is opened my mind a little more. I tend to love people as equals. That doesn't mean, of course, you have to, I guess the word would be respect. If somebody's just a bad person, it doesn't mean you're going to have to be their carpet. But on one level, spiritually, on a divine level, which is in all of us, I realize we're all in the same boat. And so, I love them in that sense. Everything we do, like, all that matters is what you think. And what I believe in that is that everything we do basically creates our future lifetimes, our, in a sense, not of a punishment, but as energies. When we do different actions in life, good, bad, and everything, we're harmonizing with different universal energies, and those kind of funnel our lifetimes into what our next lifetime is going to be. Does that mean if we're just perfect and wonderful and everything else, that everything's perfect and wonderful in our next lifetime? No, not necessarily, because we have lifetimes and lifetimes of that we have to mix and clear these energies, is what my feeling is. So it kind of gave me that grasp of the really, it just kind of happens. We don't instantly generally go from one lifetime to another. We spend time on different levels and kind of reflect, and there's teaching and learning and other things. But the one thing I want to say is, so we go from lifetime to lifetime. So there's different levels of why. I think a lot of it's for the experience of it. I think a lot of it is to get our souls. Our soul is us. Our soul has an agenda in its own way of where it wants.
You bet it has an agenda. It has a life script and a memory wipe. I can't stress this enough. The whole soul versus spirit thing. Look, the soul is, in my opinion, I'm not stating this as fact, but in my strong opinion, I think the soul is a parasitic attachment that contains your life script. It contains past lives and past life traumas, past life karma, and everything and anything in between. Soul groups, all this stuff kind of comes into play. Attachments, materialism, geographical locations you've been, on and on and on, okay? And what it does is it allows a pressure valve to be released of certain things. And it's supposed to guide you and take away your free will so that you're on autopilot. And until you connect with yourself and awaken and realize that you are much more than this experience and capable of incredible things as a creator being, you're always going to kind of be following that autopilot script that has been laid out for you. And then you have the memory wipe. So the deck is stacked against us in so many different ways. And yet we continue to fall for it lifetime after lifetime. And it's up to us on an individual by individual basis to reclaim our true essence and say, enough is enough. I know there's much more than this. I know there's much more than just the astral. I mean, to really think that just the astral is all that's out there is the definition of limited thinking. We have to think huge, massive, beyond any possibility of anything we could think of, and think of it probably a million times over, because what is out there, who knows? But, you know, is difficult as this whole experience is and has been on Earth and inside this whole matrix system in general, there aren't all bad realms out there. I refuse to believe it, because there are plenty of good people in this chat. There are plenty of good people in the astral. There are plenty of good beings in the astral, good beings on Earth. And so that doesn't mean that everyone is out to do harm, to be parasitic, to set up a realm that is so insidious and disgusting and vile that they just wouldn't do stuff like that. I know I wouldn't. I know many people here in this chat wouldn't. I know many people in my real life outside who would never do such a thing and set it up in such a way to be so limiting and just atrocious. So there has to be plenty of good realms out there. There has to be plenty of different places that we can go and experience existence and have a good time. But does that mean that we're going to roll the dice and hope for the best? No, we're going to make sure, hey, you want to go and experience a realm? Well, if part of the deal of me experiencing some realm is giving even 0.00001% of my essence, my memories, over to a realm in exchange for the experience, the answer is no. You should be able to come and go freely as you wish in any experience that you have after this. And here. But it's not where we're at, right? So just remember, like, for as crappy as things can be, there's plenty of good out there. And I truly feel that there will come a point, once we've given ourselves, quote unquote, time to do what we need to do for ourselves, reclaim our memories, our essence, and everything, test the our flaws as creator beings, test the positives, push the limits to see how far this whole thing goes as a being. And then once that's kind of done, I think we're going to have a damn good time. And we're going to look back on this as, yeah, it was a shit show, but hey, I'm out of it now. And once natural death occurs, it'll be good. But take it slow. Remember, everything is about just playing it safe.
Its energies to go and what it wants to blend with, and how it wants us to deal with these things, love and surrender, and all kinds of different things, and blending with others' energies. So the soul has the patterns, and the souls also can be hurt.
The soul has the patterns. Patterns, yes, because that's what the matrix works on, is patterns, behavior, predictability, in hopes that it could control you easier. Because if it knows your patterns and knows what you're going to do next, it could plot things out easier so that you fall for them.
And in that sense, part of it, the soul can hold grudges, you know. But the soul can be heard. It absorbs energies also from many different, more unlimited avenues than we do. But the soul is very much tied to this. It is this incarnation, and we're just the vehicle primarily, with our own consciousness and our own ego. The ego means well, and then it tries to help us through this. But the soul is in charge, basically.
Aha. The soul is in charge, basically. I mean, really, how much more does it have to be spelled out? I've been saying it for quite, I don't know how many, few years now, that the soul is a parasitic attachment. It's not the real you. And it's somehow been misconstrued as like, that's you. That's the real you. No, the soul is part of the matrix. And I don't even like to go on the end with talking about spirit. I just like to say true essence being. Your true essence, because that's what you want to get down to, right, guys? We all want to get down to our true essence, our core, our authentic core, not any sort of overlays or etheric attachments, whatever you want to call them, because those are matrix components and completely unnecessary, and they're not going to do us any good. The best thing to do is step back and want to just reclaim your core true essence and all memories since beginning of existence, if there is a beginning point.
No. Knows what it wants, but it's kind of formatted. It's kind of like a bit of a script, you know, that is set part of it ahead of time. And so we're living it, and there are things that can be altered, I believe in that. But yeah, so as far as that perspective goes, it gives me a little more openness when I try to get too bogged down by responsibility and stuff and start getting to be a grumpy man. You know, not such a great, you can never be such a wonderful mood all the time, you know. And we go from that, we also go down to down days, you know, and down periods of time when being in our humanness is like, criminy, you know. I just don't like this, you know. I'm hating life at the moment, you know. But it helps me get that in perspective.
And that's why #LastTimers don't have to put up with this bullshit anymore. Take control of your own destiny. You don't have to answer to anyone or anything. This whole system is a farce and a clown show and absurd, and we all deserve better, but it's up to us as individuals to take ourselves back to our core. All right, so what I'm going to do is just take a quick 5-minute break. I would like to also give a big thank you to Monkey Man for his kind and generous super chat. He said, "Here's to the love bomb." Thank you, my friend. Very much appreciate it. And we will be right back. Probably about 5 minutes, maybe a little less. And much more to come. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Edith, thank you so much for renewing your Last Timers Club memberships. And while we're on that, I just want to let anyone know who's interested in getting a little bit of extra content each month. The Last Timers Club levels 2 and higher have perks, and one of those is I guarantee a monthly members live stream once a month, and also there are early access videos as well, and sometimes some bonus streams on occasion. And you also, there's a bunch of emojis and member badges and stuff, which the member badges I am going to improve, I promise. I've been working on them. Actually, the last before the hurricane, I was working on them about a week before. So They're almost ready. And hey, Pale Horse Rider, ATB, AFE, Miss Ellie. I already said hello to you and Pale Horse. Lady J, hey, hope you're doing well. Says, hey, Pale Horse says, hey, FC, so happy you're back. I'll be supporting very soon. No problem, brother. No problem. I appreciate you. You're always very kind and supportive of the channel. Hey, Michael. Hope you're doing well out there. Okay, so we are going to move along with Richard Allyn's NDE and his discussion with Jeff Mara. Again, the Jeff Mara podcast is the source of this video, and he does a great job. So if you are still researching the topic or on the fence about what's going on, please consider subscribing to Jeff and also going through other experiencer accounts to help cement your inner knowing about what's going on here to, the minimal extent that we know. But in the end, again, no belief is necessary. Just take care of yourself. Look out for yourself. You're number one and number one only. And you deserve sovereignty and liberation. So let's get back into it. Thank you for your patience.
You consider yourself a religious or a spiritual person?
Spiritual. Spiritual, and there's many aspects to spiritual, though. I believe since the experience, I've come to realize that I believe in everything and nothing, because beliefs are constraining. Not all of them. I mean, beliefs can be opening too, but if you believe too hard in something, whether it be a certain religion or this or that, if we narrow down the belief too tightly, it controls us. It limits down our experience. So that's what I feel. So I believe in everything and nothing, pretty much. And I know that sounds weird, but I just feel open to, I enjoy learning other things. I enjoy learning from other people, because in our one little lifetime this time, there's so many people, that have so much interesting conversations and life patterns. We're all very similar, but everybody's different.
Life patterns, life script.
And the one thing about knowledge, that's what I forgot, because I get rambling along. Really none of us are any better than anybody else, so to speak of. We have different vibratory rates, and some people do inherently lower vibrations. They do more not so good things and get too self-centered on certain things. But, being self-centered and our ego is part of who we are as a human. So, just as far as learning goes, there's a lot to learn. But then really when you get, I think, the most of the learning is simply meant to be the experience of everything that's created, but through our lifetimes, as much as we can on this level. There's different levels. There's different levels of consciousness. So on each level of consciousness, of course, we have new expansive perspectives, where some levels are where we realize we're all one, basically, and we're more loving and open to each other when we get to those kind of levels. And here we feel so separated from each other. So it's me against such and such, or look at what I know, I'm really smart. It's like, it doesn't really matter. We're all together. So there really isn't a comparison anymore.
Yeah. And I don't like to, again, the whole group think approach to so many things. We see it everywhere here. Yeah. So even if there is some connection between all of us, okay, for the benefit of the doubt, let's just say that's the case. All right. The system still likes to place us all in these little boxes, and they hope that, the appealing aspects of the box will lure you in and suck you right into its bullshit, which is, the Matrix's master plan with everybody. But once you start thinking on an individual level for yourself, taking a stand for you, you get met with all sorts of pushback. All sorts of pushback. So why is that? Why is that? I know I'm repeating myself from earlier, but it just has to be said. It's important to put that out there, that there's something seriously triggering to the matrix when we start standing our ground and thinking for ourselves, doing our own thing, and not allowing to be trampled and bullshitted with anymore.
After a certain point. So trying to help each other is a good thing that way, I feel.
Did you notice that you had any abilities after your NDE that you didn't have before?
Yes, I do. I think maybe it's because it opened a person's consciousness a little bit, different level of consciousness, but you get some psychic events, spirit. I can hear spirit more. For example, it's some things that are major, like a few years ago, they warned me something's going to happen in 2024. And of course, I manage some investments as a sideline, so I'm a little concerned about that, trying to balance things out a little bit more from that point of view. It was a strong feeling, but it's not always strong feelings like, of course, you get that intuition like people do that, I think I should go to the store now. And then there's a voice that says, no, I think I'll wait 10 minutes, take care of this. And then, of course, there's a car wreck right where you would have been. So we always have these guardian angels and this input. I'm a little more sensitive, I think, to that now because they communicate with me like we're talking. Sometimes a gut feeling, sometimes some insight I have to just write down real fast or I forget. Because it's not coming from my human mind. It's just trying to cram through there. And it's hard to understand stuff that's hard to understand, when you get it funneled through you, trying to put it into words, communication on this level is really limited.
Yes, it is very limited. I totally with that. But really, let's ask the question. So for those that, seriously, this is an experiment, so to say, in critical thinking. So you have one group of people who think that, it's your angels, it's your spirit guides, it's your this, your that is firing up your intuition and trying to make sure that you don't get put in harm's way by being at the scene where a car, quote unquote, accident would occur. A script, okay? But what about for the people that are in the accident? What about those who are set and supposed to be there? Where were their angels? Where were their guardians looking out for them? So it's very, very difficult for me to sign on to and say, oh, well, the guides, the angels or whatever are looking out for someone when they're allowing all sorts of other atrocities to occur. Not even just, like a horrible car crash or whatever, but just think about like a child starving to death, being trafficked. There are so many different things you could think of, and you have to ask yourself, where are the guardian angels there? Where are they there? This is the problem. It's like these experiences are customized to the individual, so they start to think a certain way, and they have their experience, then they come back, and it's reinforced by an entire industry of spiritual, quote unquote, gurus and authors and other experiencers, and the list goes, and conferences and websites, and it goes on and on and on. And so everything is reconfirmed for them, or at least it's planted in them. So, it's really tough to say exactly what's going on with all that. So Let's just move along here.
So, but they also communicate just like a voice. They'll talk in your ear. Like we were at the beach a while back with my wife, and they put out these artisan floats here as kind of a tourist draw. They're really pretty, and they put them out all summer, and they only put out a few here and there every day, and people find them. And we don't look for them all the time because they're meant for everybody. But I found one time. It was a great thrill, and it's beautiful and colored, and all the history of it and everything. And so I always wanted my wife to find one, always. And so we were walking along the beach because we're surrounded by beaches, and this voice comes booming in my ear. It says, "Rich, there's a glass float around this bunch of seagrass over here on the beach." And so, and I knew it was them talking to me. So I told my wife, "You go look around that way. I'm going to go look around this way." And then I heard her yell, "Hey, I got a glass float. It's a beauty. It's a beauty, you know." And so a lot of it's just, you know, it's not all serious stuff. It's lighthearted stuff too. And so I've become more receptive. And once in a while, it goes in spurts. You know, sounds funny. You know, I think a lot of people can do this, but they see out of the corner of their eye, they'll see, you know, spirits, you know, coming and going kind of thing. Because we're not here alone in that sense, you know. I mean, there's spirits and different things that can come and go and flow. It's always a flow of spirits that are here. I mean, whether or not you're having a good time with your partner in the bedroom or whatever, there's spirits that can come and go, you know. But we're on a different conscious level, of course, on that sense. But I can see more of these things. I'm more sensitive to them, and that's kind of nice, actually.
Was it the same voice when you were about to die that said, "You've died 1,000 times," as the one where you heard where the float is?
Great
Very
question,
close
Jeff.
to that. That's a very good question. Yeah, I would
Yes,
say
it
it's,
is.
let me think. Primarily, yes.
So maybe that voice is coming from like your guardian angel or some being that's always with you still.
I believe so. Yeah. It could be my guardian angel, or it could be, we also have spirits that tend to, I believe, hang around us as individuals, whether they were previous people that were incarnated or whatever, you know. I don't know the answer to that, but I have heard several different voices, but there's always one main one.
Have you told your friends and family about this? And if so, how did they react?
Funny you should say that. I have, well, you know, now that you mentioned that, I have 3 kids, a son and 2 daughters. And one daughter and I, none of us are just, one of mine is genetic, and one of my wife's is genetic, and one of them was my very short first marriage, ex-wife's from her first marriage. So anyway, we have 3 different kids. We loved them all, raised them all as a family, and we're all on wonderful terms and get together periodically. The boy, Brian, he doesn't much believe in this kind of stuff, just a little. My daughter, Vanessa, she's very much in belief of this kind of thing. She's very spiritual, very spiritual. She gets gut instincts a lot, but she doesn't really hear anything. And then my one daughter, Carrie, she was never really a believer in any of this stuff, but it's funny, the last few years she's had some really serious health problems, and then she's also become sensitive to spirit. Maybe it's more she's surrendered to these health problems, and now they're helping her get better, which she's very aware of now, their presence. So I think maybe it's just the fact of that surrendering that she's become aware. I don't know, but she's a very spiritual person right now, as well as religious. So it just depends. My wife, she's a wonderful gal, and she went fishing with me and hooked the skipper, and she always gets her fish. But she's more of an in the moment type person who just believes life is what you make it, which is really true. You know, her beliefs are very basic that way, and it's wonderful. Sometimes I think it's better than trying to float out there and and think about stuff that really, is hard to comprehend, when it's probably not so hard to comprehend just for humans and different levels like this. But she accepts life and is doesn't really believe in this stuff at all, but yet she's open to the fact that it could be. We get along great.
Did you mention it to the doctors and or your parents?
To the doctors, all I said was, I had an experience that was wonderful. That's all I said. And by the way, I could hear you talking. And that was a little interesting. It wasn't always good. Mm-hmm. So, but they were surprised. They thought, no way I could hear them talking. But I've mentioned it to several friends. Yeah, they know I'm pretty open about it. What difference does it make? Yeah. I have nothing to prove. Actually, it's really funny because sometimes the spirit will just tell me. I talk to people fairly easily, and they'll just tell me, go talk to this person over here, and somehow or another, sometimes through them or me, we'll get on the subject of this kind of stuff. And then I'll tell them I had a death experience once, and it was fantastic. It was wonderful. I didn't want to come back. Certainly not afraid of dying. I know we all have things to work out, and that's just part of being human, and they understand that. Our higher selves and the angels understand that. So it's not something to be afraid of.
Okay, so what? Okay, I know this may be really out there, and this is just kind of something I'm throwing at you, and make of it what you will. But kind of the more and more I look at experiencers who have been communicating with guides, quote unquote guides, ascended masters, whatever you want to call them, archetypes, the Fae, on and on, okay? And when they involve themselves with other people, my gut instinct is that what they are doing is facilitating the matrix's business for the matrix. All right. So for instance, Boopster has a life script. Okay. And she's veering off course. She has multiple life scripts set up, because that's what it indicates, is that we do have multiple life scripts. So let's just say we have A through D life scripts. Okay. You're veering off A, you're veering off B, you're veering off C, but Boopster's kind of in D, and then what happens is the matrix sends in someone to her life through an experiencer or a dream or an out-of-body experience, whatever the case may be. And in turn, the experiencer is guided to Boopster, and they are supposed to play out a certain script so that they stay on, so that the person that they are going towards involving themselves with, in this case Boopster, stays on her life script. All right. So seriously, this is what my gut tells me. I don't know for sure, but it would make sense that the Matrix has us doing its bidding. We already know it has us, many people doing its bidding for it, but why would it stop with the spiritual component, with the astral component? If it needs to crack the whip and get someone in line and make sure that their ass gets back on their life script, well, they're going to send someone in. And it might be a near-death experiencer. It might be a breakthrough trip. It might be a dreamer. It might be an out-of-body experiencer. It might be a shared death experiencer. Who knows what the case may be. But they want to make sure that you are following through with what they set you up for, so that your free will doesn't override their bullshit script. Just my opinion. Make of it what you will, but that's in my gut. That's what I feel is going on.
And then they'll say, oh, that's sure good to know. I've been wondering for the last 2 years after my husband died if he was all right, you know, and this and that, this and that. There's a lot of people here, and I know it's the same way for me, that except I know that they are all right. But there are a lot of people here that, you know, they miss somebody. We miss them terribly if they're gone, so to speak, gone, but they're not gone. And so I've been instructed to comfort probably a few dozen people that way.
Have you gotten any indication on what is your purpose for this lifetime?
You know, that's funny you should say that, because I went through
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt it before he answers, but it has to be said. I'm going to rewind it. But it has to be said, the reason why Jeff asked this question in the way that he does, he goes, is there any indication, you know, that you know what you're supposed to do now that you're back here? You know, what's your purpose? What's your mission? Is there any indication? That's how I would phrase it too, because when he says it like that, he knows that the bulk of people do not know. The bulk of people do not know. Most of the NDEers that come back, they're searching and hunting for all sorts of things, and they'll break up with their girlfriend or boyfriend or wife or husband. They'll quit their job. They'll move across country. They'll sell everything and do this and that, and they may do a lot of good for people. So it's not like it's all bad. Like there could be a lot of good coming out of it, but it's because the Matrix kind of poked them in the ass and decided in this life script that they're going to have a near-death experience and that they're going to do this, this, and that. But when you really start to sift through NDEs, what you see is that most people don't know. They have no clue. They think they might have an idea, but you'll find more often than not that they don't. So why is that? Why if someone has an NDE, it's this profound, amazing experience, and they're supposed to be doing this and that, but yet they come back, they have no clue. Because there is a memory wipe that's applied in NDEs too. We've seen it over and over and over again. So if that is happening, well, not if, it is happening, how come the Matrix can't throw the experiencer a bone, so to say, so that they can do what's best for them? Why does it still have to be shrouded in freaking mystery? For so many, I'm not going to say every single person, but it really is. It's a sight to behold that so many people can have this experience, and over and over and over again, even they don't really know. Some think they know, but most are not definitive in any way, shape, or form. Like, oh yeah, all right, I'm here to feed the hungry. I'm here to, you know, pass clothes out at the shelter, or food, or help people get homes, or build a well. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things you could think of. Now, I don't want to rant too long, but I tried like hell to get this man on for an interview. I tried for about 1.5 years. And I ran across him on YouTube in a comment section, and he was sharing a very, very in-depth like breakdown of his near-death experience. Now, mind you, this guy had like a mega chain of stores, not like, high level corporate, but I would say mid-level, like nationwide set of stores. And he had this formative near-death experience. And when he came back, he was doing a tremendous amount of good. He opened up food banks and shelters and clothing giveaways for and abuse shelters. I mean, really, he went the nine because he had so much success before his NDE that he went and gave back. And I kept questioning him and questioning him and questioning him. And do you know, I'm telling you, I was going back and forth with this guy for, I don't know, maybe a few months, and kept trying to get him on. And he wouldn't come on. But the point is, you know, he didn't want to come on and feel like he was bragging about helping other people. But when it got down to the core of the question, I kept trying to get an answer from him, and I think it was over the course of maybe 4 or 5 messages, and towards the end of our conversations, going back and forth. And I said to him, I said, "Is that what you were told to do?" And he admitted no. He admitted no. He just said that it feels that that's what he should be doing. It was incredible. And I know that, no, he's not a storyteller. He's not. I looked it up. It's absolutely true. It's documented, but it's just, I tried to get him on, he couldn't go. But anyways, let's go. Let's continue.
Have you gotten any indication on what is your purpose for this lifetime?
Yeah. You know, that's funny you should say that, because I went through a period of, after this accident, I went through a physiological, emotional depression after my first short marriage broke up. But there's no way I would have ever made it anyway. We just meant to have our one daughter, one of my daughters through this. And then it was just meant to dissolve. You know, not everything is, you know, like I said, a lot of it is kind of scripted and agreed upon, you know, and so we're not always meant to be, things happen for reasons. At the time, though, it just really hit me. Divorce is not something I like. And that was the only one. So I got really, really, really depressed for about 6 months. And so finally, I think they had their fill, and they said, hey, because you're so dense and depressed, you can't hardly receive anything, and you just feel like you're in this hole, and you know the story. And so they finally, I felt this strong presence again, and it said, hey, Rich, we just want you to focus on one thing. Just help one person. Your whole life is worth it if you help one person. Get your mind off yourself. Help one person, just one. And that drugged me out of it. You know, I started engaging in people again rather than hold up, you know, kind of thing. And just help one person. And then all of a sudden, of course, I've always been a person, you know, and so, yeah, that's what they told me.
Do you find that reality on the other side is more real than this one?
Yes. Wasn't a shadow of a doubt. I know sometimes they say it's your brain and all the chemicals, you know, and I've done a lot of exciting things in my life, adventure sports kind of thing, a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, and it's not the same. It's wonderful, makes you feel great, but that is realer than this. You know instantly, at least I did. I knew instantly that was my home. And number two, it was realer than this. I always tell people, the ones I talk to, that if you poked me in the nose with your fist, it's going to hurt. You know, just like you hit your thumb with a hammer. You can feel it, and that's very real. And it is very real here. But that's realer because you get that feeling not just feeling, you get that knowing, an overwhelming presence that is home more than this is.
That is home more than this is. We've talked about this whole narrative more times than I can count. And it goes to, because this is, I'm going to stand by this till I'm gone. the reason why people feel like they're at home is not just the love bomb. It is the disconnection from the wakefulness, I guess we can say, or density, as the New Age will say, that is the earth body, the earth experience. Okay. So when you leave your body, if you have the opportunity to, it feels like more like your natural state. So you take that and then you throw in the love bomb with it. Well, you got a recipe for disaster, because there's a reason why the parasites pounce on us anytime we leave our body. There's a reason why the parasites don't want us leaving our body in general, because they don't want us to connect with our true self. Despite that, yeah, there could be etheric attachments still within all of that. It's still extremely liberating to feel that, to have that experience and know that you are more than your physical body than it is to be in the physical body. Okay, so they take advantage of that opportune moment, regardless of what type of experience it is, so that you can, basically be put in check, and that the system is saying, hey, all right, well, we're good to go. You're going to follow our rules, and we're good. We're ready to get you moving here. Come on to the light. Come on, get memory wipes. Do all this bullshit all over again. And it just goes on and on.
Not that this isn't home, but that is realer. Your consciousness is more open, the perspectives, it's an aha feeling. It's like, whew, I'm out of that human body. Thank God.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out of that body. Thank God. That's exactly what I was just pointing out. It's like, because it's so liberating in that experience compared to what you just came from, that it feels like home. Add the love bomb, and it's a recipe for complete manipulation and deception across the board.
But yeah, we have such great moments here at times.
Do you fear death at all?
No, not at all. That being said, as I get older, I stay pretty active, and I'm almost 70 now. But as I get older, there are things I would still like to do. Not so much accomplish, like taking up a new career or something like that. That being said, of course, I still skipper some just to help out where people need days off and that kind of thing. And it's fun to do that again, because I retired from that, a few years ago.
Oh yeah, loads of fun.
Or so I thought. And so, yeah.
Do you have any negative after effects from the NDE besides any physical problems from the car accident?
Yeah, some physical problems, but joints mostly. But any other thing negative you said, Jeff?
Yeah, anything negative you feel like that came from your experience?
No, mine was just glorious. But, I don't feel like necessarily they're always that way. There can be times when people are so on medications that are harsh, for example, that their vibrations can't raise right away, or people that have had such traumatic experiences. You have guides, you have counselors, your angels. A human experience can be very traumatic. All you have to do is look around the world.
That's an understatement.
And those things don't just disappear, I don't think. When you pass away, it's nothing to be feared, because you're in really good hands. But it can take a while.
You're in really good hands. But Richard, really, we got to ask the question: why do we come here lifetime after lifetime under the veil of forgetfulness? How can we learn and grow and excel in a system that is based in wiping your memory? How can you right your wrongs if you don't even remember what your wrongs were? It's the most mind-boggling thing ever. And then when you really look at the entire system as a whole and what is going on here and how everything of importance is inverted to the hills, and then you see a polar opposite being represented in the astral, how it's saying everything is love and light and rainbows and unicorns and pixie dust and everything else under the sun. And then you think about what Earth truly and actually is, and the two do not line up. They just don't line up. So how can we continue to prop up and reinforce this system, not just here, but in the astral, and not have a right to ask questions, not have a right to stand up for ourselves and do what's right for us as an individual by individual experience or basis?
A little while, but there's no time.
What do you think inspires you about your NDE?
Well, the greatest inspiration was, of course, having to confirm that we're all in the same boat, that everything in the universe is connected, that everything is thought, and the feeling of the knowing that it's home, and the love is the greatest. The love was unbelievable. Like I've gone on and on and on about, but it's just such a, it is who we are. Just
the love is unbelievable. It is who we are. Really, what if, really, we got to ask the bigger questions. What if love doesn't exist outside of here? What if love doesn't exist outside of the entire matrix construct? What if we're limiting our assumptions that, you know, the universe is love, that God is love? And we know love is a component of the earth realm, and it's a part of the astral realm, multiplied times a zillion at the white light, and we're just supposed to buy it, when everything is like the complete opposite to what is actually occurring here on earth. I know I'm repeating myself, but it can't be said enough that we have to ask these questions. And why are they so diametrically opposed? Why is evil able to rise above in every situation when it comes to controlling humanity? Why is it allowed to just continue to occur over and over and over again? That's what the history shows. So why should we buy into what the astral is selling? We're being fed a line of bullshit, guys. That's the only thing possible. We're being bamboozled. So take the path of the individual. Empower yourself. Stop thinking that you need to answer to some outside system that you know nothing about, has memory wiped you. You're supposed to be here to learn and grow and blah, blah, blah. But yet, it's saying everything, God is love, everything is love and light and blah, blah, blah. But then you see what goes on here, and you see this insane suffering. A child starving, a child injured, child trafficked, an adult trafficked, whatever the case may be. So where does it end? When you see a contradiction in your everyday life, what do? You assess it. You say, okay, the person A is telling me this and person B is telling me that. So I know, let's just say person B is the bullshitter. You know they're bullshitter. And that person A makes more sense because that's what you've experienced. That's what you know is happening. So when an entire apparatus of the matrix is saying that everything is love and light, and God is love, and that we're all connected and this and that, you should be questioning the shit out of that, because it doesn't align with what happens here. It's just using critical thinking. That's it.
The feeling of the knowing that it's home, and the love is the greatest. The love was unbelievable, like I've gone on and on and on about, but it's just such a, it is who we are. It just flows through you. I mean, it forms everything. And when you get to a higher level of consciousness, I guess is where I was at, or a more unlimited level of consciousness.
Did you hear him? He said it forms everything. It forms everything. I'm rewinding.
Unbelievable, like I've gone on and on and on about, but it's just such a, it is who we are. It just flows through you. I mean, it forms everything. And when you get to a higher level of consciousness, I guess is where I was at, or a more unlimited level of consciousness, or not burdened level of consciousness. It's just such a wonderful feeling, you know. I mean, it just, you realize it forms everything, and you are everything. You're part of everything, and everything's connected. And that's the greatest imprint.
Even if we are all connected, let's just say that what Richard is saying is true, and what many other NDEers say is that we are all connected. Okay, just because we're connected doesn't automatically throw in love to the equation, right? I mean, really, we got to ask that question. If we're all one, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're all one in love, because you can be all one in hate and anger and everything under the sun. All right, so you can be part of one, a collective, but you can also be part of one in a collective. I mean, you could be in a, some sort of hate group or whatever the case may be, and do all sorts of horrible things to individuals and groups, but we're all connected in love. So which one is it? That's my question. Which one is it? Maybe they're both playing the same cards. Maybe the good, the bad, and the ugly are playing, and the love are all playing on the same side. And they don't care which you fall into, as long as you fall into what they have laid out for you. That's all they care about. Because what does that do? It pulls you back into the matrix system.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and chat with you or ask you questions. Are you open to that? And if so, how should they reach you?
Yeah, I'm totally open for interested people, because it's certainly not an exclusive experience. I mean, this is for everybody. You know, we're spirit having a spirit and soul having a human experience, you know, and it's so it's it's for everybody. It's nothing that's just for me or those that have it. We're all together. So to reach me, probably best to email, I suppose. I mean,
email or Facebook?
Facebook's fine, sure. They can message me on that under Richard Allyn, Allyn. That would probably be the best way, don't you think?
Yeah.
And yeah, feel free. I can add anything that's helpful. That's great.
As you were talking about your life review, it just kind of popped into my head this question. What do you think the point is of the life review?
I think the point is to get our feelings. How did you, well, they asked me, what did you think about this? But I also believe, of course, what you feel about it. So I would say the point of review is to be aware of your life and what you've done. Of course, my concern was being in such a wonderful place of love is how much good I did and how much bad I did. I don't know
Mhm.
why that was so instinctive to feel that way. Uh, it's kind of sad in a way to say that, but it's like you came there with the idea of being judged almost, but it just felt so wonderful. So I suppose there was a part of my humanness that was like, maybe I'm not good enough to be there or something. I don't know. Did I go to the right place? This is too good.
Did I go to the right place? This is too good. Maybe he's even subconsciously questioning it. Did I go to the right place? This is too good. Shouldn't everyone be asking that question? What happens? Think about when you get, let's just say, for instance, some salesman showing up at your door. The old days, let's say, they show up with a vacuum or some sort of bullshit that yeah, it'd be good to have, but I can't quite afford it. It's a little pricey. But yet they show up at your door, they throw the wine and the dirt on the floor, and the vacuum picks it up. And then in the end, they say, oh, well, it's 4 easy payments of $150 for this amazing vacuum. And it's able to do so many incredible things right before your very eyes. Too good to be true. And then what happens? The vacuum fails after a few months. And you're stuck with this hunk of crap in your closet. And there's no warranty or extended warranty. And you still got to keep paying those monthly payments. Is it too good to be true? What about the Nigerian prince that calls your cell phone and says, hey, or emails you and says, hey, I got $10 million and I just need you to help me. Send me your social security number, your checking account, and your routing number and all that stuff. And we're going to send out the initial payment because I can't do it here because, whatever reason it is. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's the Matrix marketing department rearing its ugly head right in front of us all. So even Richard says it's too good to be true.
I don't know. Did I go to the right place? This is too good.
Yes, it
So
is.
I guess, they just wanted me to be aware of every little detail in my life and what I thought about it and whether or not I appreciated it. Because coming to this planet is not easy. Souls, there's rules, so to speak. There's only so many that can come in at a time, blah, 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 blah. They say that people line up like crazy to get here, even though it's a harsh planet sometimes. But I think they just wanted me to appreciate it and to love it, what we considered.
Now that you've been on both sides, do you feel like you can understand why we keep coming back?
Now that's a good question. I've thought about that question a lot. And when I think about it, sometimes I often just try to not think about it, but just try to absorb things. I think it's on many levels. If we got just about 3-4 minutes at least, the many levels are, of course, there's things to learn here, how to be humble, how to be helpful, how to be adventurous, how to be this, how to be kind.
What about how to be evil? What about what about how to be awful? What about how to rule the world and rob everyone of their sovereignty? What about, charging, ridiculous amounts of money for land? What about all these other parasitical things that go on that are linked to our everyday lives that just sucks the life out of everyone? And then working 40, 50, 60 hours a week just to keep the goddamn lights on. What about that? What about the endless struggles just to get by month to month and pay the bills? What about that? What about the blood, sweat, and tears that a mother or a father has to put out? Meanwhile, their child is being sent to an indoctrination center 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day. What about that? And being taught complete and utter useless knowledge, with maybe the exception, with the exception of reading and math. Really? I'm not even gonna keep going because I'll flip out.
Kindness is very important, and compassion, because we're all one in many ways. So, you can't judge anybody. I mean, we tend to.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, Richard. We can judge anyone we want. If someone's a dipshit, they deserve to be called out on being a dipshit. If someone's kind and loving and a good person and moral and ethical, they deserve to be, acknowledged and propped up for being good, for being a decent, normal, good-hearted individual, not parasitical. It's right from wrong. It's common sense. Not just, letting things slide. I mean, I think the biggest problem is our Western type of mindset, the materialistic upbringing that many of us have. It's like we forget about how many go through an absolute living nightmare day to day in whatever situation it may be, wherever that person may live. And it's like, oh, because it's not at my front door, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It's just that you've been conditioned to, you still got to pay the bills. You still got to go to work. You still got to do whatever you got to do every single day. But in the end, you're trying to just put food on the table. You're trying to pay your bills every month. And you're not necessarily thinking about the poor homeless, starving child, the trafficking victim that is, being taken advantage of from cradle to grave. There's so much going on out there. And we all live in different locations around the world. Like, for instance, Puya, I don't know if you're out there, brother, but, he our good friend Puya, he lives in Iran. And it's an absolute freaking nightmare what's going on out there. The hurricane that just came here in Southwest Florida. All the people who lost their homes. All the people who maybe couldn't afford insurance premiums. Maybe couldn't afford to do this. Couldn't afford to leave. Couldn't afford to buy a generator or stock up on food or pay whatever type of insurance, whether it's hurricane insurance or what. I mean, just there's so many different things. And yet, like, we try to simplify things. And I think it's human nature. I don't fault Richard for this. I don't fault anyone for this, because we kind of just fall into these situations where we're just thinking a certain way and not necessarily considering the bigger picture about just how nasty and how vile this reality could get. And I think that's like the most important thing is, like, you have to look at this reality as a whole. You have to acknowledge everyone knows bad things go on here and everyone knows good things go on here. But just because you may be fortunate enough to grow up in a certain country or a certain state or a certain city that is fortunate enough where you have the ability to pay for your bills and pay for your food and pay for your electric and your car and have a job that, regardless of whether you're floating by month to month or year to year, whatever the case may be, there's always someone out there who has it much worse. Now, does that excuse or explain away what you went through? Absolutely not. It doesn't, because it really isn't a contest, because the overall arching system is about suffering. It is about loosh and about stealing your energy, whether it's on the extreme end and the negative or on the extreme end of the positive. It feasts off of all the spectrums and your creative abilities. Okay. And also keeping you in line with a life script and hoping that you will not awaken and find yourself. That's what the system relies on. It hopes that you don't discover yourself because the memory wipe has been applied to you lifetime after lifetime. So where does it end? But we can't, no matter how comfortable we are sitting in our air-conditioned or heated homes, or have water running every day and a fridge filled with food and everything in between. You can't sit here and say, oh, well, I have this, so what happens outside of this, of my bubble, doesn't exist. It's just not the appropriate way to. It's not the way a critical thinker should look at anything in life. You have to take in the collective of information. You have to take it all in and then assess it under, what what you've seen, what you're aware of, how other people live, how you live, how your friends, your family live, how pets, animals. Think about all the pets out there. Think about all the dogs and the cats that are in homeless shelters and abused. I mean, and we can go on and on and on. Those things happen. They don't not exist because the Matrix gave us an experience that is all loving and amazing and this and that. It can't be explained away anymore. All right, I'm done. Too much ranting.
All one in many ways. So, you can't judge anybody. I mean, we tend to, but you can't judge anybody in that sense. It doesn't mean you have to be a carpet for them, so to speak, but if they're doing a lot of evil things. But I still think kindness and an overall perspective was one thing that was important to me. And what was the question again?
Well, first of all, you've been there and you're here. And
okay.
And since being here, is there things that you've done here and you're like, oh gosh, you get over there and you're like, you know what? I didn't really get to go do this. I'm going to go back because I didn't get to do that while I was there.
It's funny you should say that. I do think that's a bit of it, but I think overall we come back for several reasons. One, we're all in the same boat. So it means people having a human level of existence are bound to that existence for a period of lifetimes, quite a few actually.
Bound to that existence, quite a few. Bound. Doesn't sound good. But I think it's all about us awakening on an individual level and realizing our true essence, and that we don't have to answer to any of this garbage.
It means people having a human level of existence are bound to that existence for a period of lifetimes, quite a few actually. And so it's important to help others so that we can kind of sort of enhance the vibration, of the species, instead of just fighting all the time and separating and this kind of thing. Because it's important to, when we get down to these levels, I personally believe now that it's important to also raise ourselves to a higher level of consciousness. In other words, we can't just, nothing can stay stagnant, so to speak. Everything gets real condensed at these levels. And as you get closer to what we call the darkness, but also as you get closer to nothing, which is the last, most greatest step of all beyond the light, is the combination of nothing and something. But we have that here where things get real dense. And when they get real dense, things tend to be close to non-existent in a way. You know, it's kind of.
All right. So, okay. My translation, and I could be wrong, is what Richard is saying is that, you know, hey, distractions and no offense, Richard, if you ever get to listen to this, it's like, hey, all right, well, you know, distractions and love and the matrix dangling the carrot in front of you is better than a void-like state. Better than perhaps, even though he says, what did he say? He said it's beyond it.
Of nothing and something, but we have
nothing. Hold on.
All the darkness, but also as you get closer to nothing, which is the last, most greatest step of all.
When you get closer to nothing, the last, most greatest step of them all,
beyond the light, is the combination of nothing and something. But we have that.
The combination of nothing is something, and I think that's kind of the point, right? Like we have to just strip ourselves down to our bare essence, our true self, and not, you know, fall victim or not. I hate to say victim, but to fall for the illusions that are part of this overall matrix system.
Here where things get real dense, and when they get real dense, things tend to be close to non-existent in a way. You know, it's kind of like a black hole. But so to raise everything up, to get more enlightenment, to bring this back, a lot of things are a reflection, and they're all part of creation. So creation makes itself, but creation doesn't always. It's the whole thing that we're part of, and it needs reflection. For many reasons, to line up the energies, to change the energies, because creation is, it needs a perspective, different perspectives on itself. I mean, it doesn't know what we know from this level of where we are. We have to bring that back to it and to help reinforce the whole thing. The energy flow the whole energy flow has different levels of consciousness. And that's, in my opinion, that's what's needed to keep all this going. We can't just go up there and float on a cloud.
Yeah.
You know, that would get really boring in a hurry too. Plus, creation needs reflection. It needs perspective in its own sort of way, but it's a different kind of perspective. This is an awareness that's spread back from us in different levels of raising their awareness.
How can you continue to raise your awareness, Richard, and everyone listening, if you're being memory wiped lifetime after lifetime? Who's to say that one lifetime we have, you know, raised our awareness, and that the next lifetime that we will continue to raise our awareness? We don't know, because we keep being memory wiped lifetime after lifetime. We have to really ask these big questions and be honest with ourselves. Like, hey, how far does this whole thing go? And does it have my best interest at heart?
I think in that sense, you know, creation is always on the edge of nothing. So, you know, we can't say for sure, but, you know, I keep getting a gut feeling, of course, that creation is something that came from nothing primarily. So it takes the friction of nothing and something to make the energies, to make the resonance of creation happen. And once creation has that, it starts forming into more organized awareness. And organized awareness starts revolving around itself on many different areas. It's kind of like wavelengths interacting, is what I see it as. And then that starts creating complete little different existences, you know, I mean, universes, and they're not meant to last forever. They only last from the amount of energy that's put into that particular creation. And a lot of that is by just chance. In a way, it's reinforced, you know, how much is in each creation. So it's a constant, I think we're all interacting. We're important. We're not more important than anything else, but we're important from this dense level of perspective to absorb the energies, to raise our vibrations, to reflect it back to a higher level. It's a constant flow, and we're in it. We just don't realize it so much. And that's my feeling on that.
Really got to get this computer fixed. It's insane. Anyways, okay, so Nova Terra brings up an interesting point. Nova says, I also vehemently disagree that aware and intelligent people should not reproduce. That is exactly one of the aims of what we are experiencing. It's a really interesting way to look at it, right? Because if a child is born into a family, or at least a parent that is awake and aware of the BS, you in fact could help that child find itself, right? Like you can help them liberate themselves. So it's a catch-22, but the other thing to keep in mind is that, you know, you got to deal with everything that comes along with that. Now, that is for some people and maybe not for others, but the best gift you can hand over to somebody is helping them see through the BS and help them awaken in certain areas. So there's no bigger or better gift than that. And who better to give it to than your own child?
It's the only way I can reflect.
Since you were told that you've been here thousands of times, have you sat back and thought, what have I done over all these thousands of times that I've been here, and why do I keep coming back?
Yeah.
Great question, Jeff.
No, not really. Back to your other question real fast. So there's everything to learn and there's nothing to learn. You know, I mean, you learn on different levels.
That response right there is just New Age. I'm sorry. There's everything to learn, but nothing. I'm sorry, Richard. I'm not trying to crap on you. I'm not.
Yeah, because I'm not good. No, not really. Back to your other question real fast. So there's everything to learn and there's nothing to learn. You know, you learn on different levels and you think, aha, every time you get to an aha experience like that, I know now. And then you realize they flip the pancakes. It's like, you know, it's, you know, you go on different conscious levels. So it's everything to learn to get these energies to match up and go where we want to go. But on the same token, that's not the main purpose. Yeah. You know, the main purpose is much bigger than that. It's the whole wheel of creation and the wheel of sheer existence.
The wheel of samsara. The wheel of birth, death, and rebirth. The wheel can go pound sand. I want nothing to do with the wheel of samsara.
That has to be maintained.
No, it doesn't need to be maintained. The AI wants us to maintain it and continue to peddle its garbage.
Bigger than that. It's the whole wheel of creation and the wheel of sheer existence that has to be maintained. And your last question was, sorry, it was other things I've been. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
And you know, we're both sexes on this planet. You know, we're males, females, and everything in between. Always been that way. Depends on how many times you were a male in a role or a female in a role. You might come back, but the energy is more prevalent because we have both energies of the.
And you know, what does that matter? What does it matter whether you're coming here as a male or a female? You're still experiencing a human body and have to deal with the bull, right? So in the end, what does it really matter? You know, Jeff's question was like, you know, hey, what do you recall? And you know, hey, male, female. I mean, look, if it's thousands of lifetimes, that is a major concern, at least for me. And it should be a concern for everyone. Because, again, we're memory wiped lifetime after lifetime. Where does it end?
Always been that way. Depends on how many times you were a male in a role or a female in a role. You might come back, but the energy is more prevalent because we have both energies of a female in a male body or a male in a female body or whatever. You know, these energies carry over. At one lifetime, I was told, you, not that many lifetimes ago, it's about a little more than 8 lifetimes ago, but that you were a warrior in charge of a big army and you slaughtered a lot of people in the name of what you were supposed to do. I don't know where it was. I just don't know. It was quite a ways back, but you know, I have these roles, and you know, from our perspective, it's like, geez, that's not good, you know. But we do all kinds of things. We're sons, we're daughters. You know, we agree upon a lot of these before we come here.
Yes, we do. The life script. You know, who wants to come face to face with, hey, in my past lifetime, I slaughtered a bunch of people. What good is that? Where's the love in that, Richard? Right? Jeff, where's the love in that? We got to ask these questions like, if God is love and everything is love and we're all connected, then what's up with this sick evil component? And I am not crapping on Richard whatsoever here. I'm not. All I'm saying is I think we've all played both roles, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay? And we've all gotten lost in this reality. And it's time that we reclaim ourselves. But how can we continue to make excuses for this? We can't. Something is wrong. Something is seriously wrong.
You pick your parents kind of thing, and you know, for certain energy reasons, and souls tend to stay a lot of times in groupings because they work together really well, try to get to certain points. So I think you feel a lot of instantaneous, you know, you'll come across people that you just feel so natural with right off the get-go. Of course, you've shared many lifetimes with these people. They could have been a son, a daughter, a close friend, a relative, husband, wife, husband, numerous times.
Yeah, I mean, you could share multiple lifetimes with these people, and you can play both roles. You can play the good or the bad. Who wants to treat those that they care about good or bad? Who wants to treat their loved ones good or bad under a memory wipe system that is supposed to be, is being advertised as a system that is all about love? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And we just have to keep nailing that question to the wall and saying, okay, it doesn't line up. Let's try and make sense of it. Well, where does it funnel into? It funnels into showing evidence in support of the Matrix reincarnation soul trap. This is a weird realm. And the objective is to liberate yourself and awaken. That's the only lesson that can be learned here. Only lesson. It's not a school, but the lessons involved is about liberating yourselves once and for all, and not being a cog on the wheel for any piece of this matrix. Nothing.
A close friend, a relative, husband, wife, wife, husband, numerous times, a lover, and then there's people that are haters. I understand it was about 8 lifetimes ago also that I incurred in a very conservative society. I was had this strong impression that was more than just a thought, that I incurred some, I basically, through negligence, lost one of my kids. And it was in a very unforgiving, male-dominated society. I was the wife. And I got really persecuted for it in that sense, an outcast, and starved to death. And I carried the scar of that clear into this lifetime. And so the soul still had that dent in it, because that kept resurfacing. That kid kept coming up a couple of times in my lifetimes and was mad at me. So it would cause me problems. And hard in something.
Oh, shit. I just screwed that up big time. All right. Well, I'm going to say something on it, and then I'm going to attempt to find where we're at. But something that really needs to be said is that a common theme that presents itself is that trauma and past life karma, all of the really kind of crappy things, seem to be a lot more prevalent carrying over lifetime after lifetime. Why is that? Why is that? And I'm telling you that's a data point. That is, in my opinion, right in our face. Because we don't, I'm telling you, I can't think of accounts where someone is saying, oh, well, hey, we had this, amazing lifetime last time, and we're going to have this amazing lifetime this time. And we're not going to deal with any sort of trauma or blah, blah, blah that's carried over from previous lives. It's not there. So why is the negative so hyper concentrated versus the positive? It's got to be asked. Like, again, I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news. I'm just saying, like, look, this is what is out there. And you make of it what you want, but something is wrong. Seriously wrong.
Come across people that you just feel so natural with right off the get-go. Of course, you've shared many lifetimes with these people. They could have been a son, a daughter, a close friend, a relative, husband, wife, wife, husband, numerous times, a lover, and then there's people that are haters. I understand it was about 8 lifetimes ago also that I incurred in a very conservative society. I was had this strong impression that was more than just a thought, that I incurred some, I basically, through negligence, lost one of my kids. And it was in a very unforgiving, male-dominated society. I was the wife. And I got really persecuted for it in that sense, an outcast, and starved to death. And I carried the scar of that clear into this lifetime. And so the soul still had that dent in it, because that kept resurfacing. That kid kept coming up a couple of times in my lifetimes and was mad at me. So it would cause me problems. And
so where does the thought form start and where does it end? Is the thought form even involved? Is the guilt that she in a past life obviously experienced, how does that boil over? How does that start to build and become a problem in someone's next lifetime or multiple lifetimes thereafter? These are questions that need answering that we'll never get. We'll never get the finer details about how the whole thing functions and how it has perfectly cured every single being that enters the system to be completely lost. And that memory wipe obviously plays its role, but it also really gets its hooks in with trauma. And what the hell is that all about? I don't know. But it does seem to feast off more of the negativity than the positive. If someone may come into this lifetime and, you know, be with their love that was their love in previous lifetimes, but can deal with all sorts of tragedy and lead a difficult life. And if one is also conditioned through society, like schooling and whatever else is out there, religions, you name it, then that person can be more easily controlled. Especially if you're able to section off a certain amount of the suffering that is carried over from past lifetimes into this lifetime, and then apply the memory wipe on top of it. What the hell is going on? Why is this so hard to see for some people? It's because of cognitive dissonance, and I'm not crapping on anyone who's on the fence. All I'm saying is look, we're sold a bill of goods while we're here. We're sold a bill of goods in the astral that is diametrically opposed to what is actually occurring in the earth realm, and we're told to just buy it. We're told to just eat it up, comply, and don't ask any questions. Where does it end? Why do they have mechanisms at their beck and call to manipulate us? I mean, really? When do we stand up for ourselves as individuals? All right, I'm done. Let's keep going.
So now it's just this lifetime has gotten released, which is interesting to note. It's like, oh, okay, just love each other, no more hurt. Everything's good. You okay with it? Forgive me. Vice versa. Everything's good. Okay, because we're close souls. We always have been. So let's move forward.
All right, Richard. Well, I'm basically out of time. But before we finish, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Oh, golly. Positive message that I continually try to enhance, because is that, just try to help at least one person or more and love each other. It doesn't mean you have to always like each other, but love each other. We're on the same level, we're on the same boat, so to speak, and we're all here to love each other in many ways. Love never hurts. Hate is very constrictive and drags us all down. And just love each other, and it makes the transition easier, I believe, when the time comes with the death experience.
Well, thank you for that message, and I think you're going to help thousands of people by being on the podcast today. So we really appreciate you, and we wish you the best.
Okay, so that is Richard Allyn on the Jeff Mara podcast. Again, Jeff Mara puts out a lot of great experiencer testimonials. Please check his channel out. I try to regularly support it and send a few bucks his way. Him and Mara, they do a great job. And if you're listening out there, thank you for all of your continued hard work. We all appreciate you. And so, yeah, this was a hell of a near-death experience. I know I interrupted a lot, and I apologize if it was a little bit too much than normal, but there's just so much in Richard's experience that needed to be pointed out. I just couldn't not keep my mouth shut. So I apologize if it was a little too much. And so, yeah, that's going to, I think, wrap things up for today. Hello, Astro Space Knot, Kel, Clown World Hong Kong, which is a great name, Candidly, M Armor, thank you. 3 sevens, and everyone else out there. Hang in there. You know, the fine line that I have to walk with this type of information is a bit difficult at times. Some of the messages I get are just, you know, everyone has to take this information for what it is. And that's why I pop up this disclaimer, it's for everything here is for educational purposes only. You make of it what you will and do what you got to do with it. But, the biggest thing I can continue to push is that do your own research, plow through all of a bunch of different experiencer cases, not just NDEs, but all sorts of experiencer cases. And then what you start to see are these massive patterns, and it all funnels into the same, I call it the matrix system. I didn't make up the matrix word, but the point is they have all these data points, these things that stick out and are flashing in your face saying, hey, we're part of the same club, but it doesn't matter because no one's going to kind of piece them all together, even though it's couldn't be more blatantly obvious that that's what's going on. And again, I don't ever pretend to have all the answers. I know I don't have all the answers. No one can ever have all the answers. This reality, this realm, the astral realms are designed in a way for us to not be able to garner all the information, because they hope that you'll just continue to stay asleep and buy into the BS. So stop buying into the BS. Everything is smoke and mirrors and deceptions, and there are truths out there, obviously. I'm not saying there aren't, but the overall system is chock full with deception. And it's up to every single one of us as individuals to say, hey, I'm going my own way, doing my own thing, and nothing is going to stop that. Nothing is going to interfere with it. I'm going to get to my root core essence and never look back. So I appreciate you all stopping by tonight. Thank you so much. And I hope you each have a good week ahead. Don't work too hard in the matrix, and make sure you're taking care of yourself and anyone that you are around, like friends, family, and beyond. And it's been fun. It's really weird when you take time off on YouTube and you try to get back in the swing of things. But especially after the whole hurricane thing, but we all got to press on, right? We all got to do our thing, and I look forward to coming on every weekend and speaking with y'all. And just remember, like, if you're going through something that is difficult and taxing, that there's always, I mean, I hate to kind of, I kind of vowed not to do this, but you have to always remember that there's always someone out there that is going through it so much worse. And if you can kind of creep in and weasel your way into someone's life to kind of help them see the overall deception, the illusion that's being cast upon everybody, you're helping them in more ways than you can count. And it may be difficult for days, weeks, months, or even longer. But, you know, if someone's receptive in your kind of inner circle, I guess you can say, don't give up. If you're talking to someone in a comment section and they're receptive, you know, spreading this information helps. You never know who you're going to impact. I started this channel and it began with me not showing my face for over a year and kind of uploading orbs and moonshots with the Nikon P900 and clouds and all sorts of things. And then it kind of evolved, like where like you have like this, or at least I had this inner thing to share other information that I had kind of learned along the way. And then even though I knew about the soul trap for during this whole period and before I even ever started posting on YouTube, I'm talking about posting, not my account creation date, but like actually putting up videos, which is, I don't know, like 2018 or something. You start to realize like my account is a great example of it, because if you look back at a lot of my old stuff, look, there's some interesting stuff that I experienced that I shared and a lot of people were into it and stuff, and a lot of other BS that I posted too, that I firmly believed in with every fiber of my being, and that content is just no longer on this, like anything that I've kind of evolved on and realized I was deceived on, that content is just no longer available. And I think it's really important to kind of hold as much integrity as you can as you kind of continue to awaken. And the only reason I'm saying all this is because there were things that I pushed and discussed on this channel that I was firmly convinced. So when you hear people that say, take what resonates and leave the rest, I'm telling you that statement is dangerous. And the only reason it's dangerous is because I've lived through it, and I can only kind of express this to those who may have gone through this themselves, where like you connect with certain information in a huge way that it's got to be real. It is real because you've convinced yourself that it's real. But meanwhile, you've got to leave the door open to always go back and revisit your beliefs or your firm inner knowings that you once had, and be able to put those thoughts up to scrutiny and then adjust if necessary. Like, I'm not someone who says, oh, the soul trap's, ironclad. But in the same breath, I think there's so much out there that I can't ever see myself changing my mind that it's not happening. Just the memory wipe and how everything kind of contradicts itself, and between the two worlds, between the earth realm and the astral. I mean, there's just so much that it would take a mountain of evidence that, things that I haven't seen to kind of convince me otherwise. But I'm always open to it. I'm always open to anything in my life changing if new information comes about. But I just can't see it I just can't see it. I can't see there being enough out there that would convince me otherwise. And even then, it's like, okay, strip all it away. Like, that's why, like, I like to point out, like, strip all the belief systems. Nobody has to believe anything I say. Strip it all the way to its basic core. What matters the most? Individualism, non-interference, sovereignty, liberation, creating your own realm that's impenetrable. All that stuff. That's the core. No belief system is required for that except, hey, I'm doing my own thing and we'll see what happens. So can't go wrong with that, right? You can't. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So what? Hey, we tried, right? We put it to the test, and whatever will be, will be. But if we don't at least try it, then it seems like this whole system is kind of designed in a way to get us to funnel into its belief system. Not us, but its belief system. And that it doesn't want us standing by as an individual questioning it. So I'll leave you with that tonight. And thank you for hanging out. And sorry for kind of ranting so much tonight. I know I kind of went off on multiple tangents, and maybe it wasn't the right time, but you know, it's been a while, so I apologize if it went too long. And thank you to everyone out there. Just to kind of give you a heads up, I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, Rumble, a DLIVE, an ODYSEE, and a website that will be coming. If I also have an email list, and that's everything is available in the description tab, and some of the links are also in the pinned comment here on YouTube, as well as on ODYSEE and Rumble tonight, which we are multi-streaming on. So hello to everyone on ODYSEE and Rumble. Hope you're doing well out there. And I think there's something else I'm forgetting. Oh yes, memberships. Every month or once a month, I have members live streams. So if you're interested in joining the Last Timers Club, it's the last Sunday of every month, and there is a backlog of a year of videos if you're interested. And there's also a Stripe donation link, a Stream Elements link, and then over on ODYSEE as well, I have a support tab at the top of the page, and you can, if you're interested in supporting the channel, you can click that and either donate through a credit card or LBC, which is library cryptocurrency, and that can be sent anonymously. So I know some people like to send something anonymously once in a while, so all those things. And if you do use a card, all of your personal information is always kept confidential and private. I'll never share anything about you or anything that you decide to share with me. And I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging in there tonight, watching the channel, and please consider sharing this video and liking it on the way out. Liking and commenting does help with get this information out into more feeds. At least that's what I'm told. So make of that what you will. But yeah, support is never expected, but always appreciated. And I will see you all again this coming weekend. Don't work too hard. And thank you. Appreciate each and every one of you.